Throughout the 20th century, the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, played a pivotal role in shaping the political landscape of Latin America. Operating under the banner of anti-communism during the Cold War, the CIA executed covert operations that dramatically altered the destinies of multiple nations across the region. From orchestrating coups to supporting dictators, its hidden hand left a lasting legacy, often shrouded in secrecy, controversy, and blood. One of the earliest and most notorious interventions was in Guatemala in 1954. The democratically elected president, Jacobo Arbenz, introduced land reforms that threatened the interests of the powerful United Fruit Company, a U.S.-based corporation with deep ties to Washington. Labeled a communist sympathizer, Arbenz became the target of Operation PBS Success, a CIA-led coup. With support from U.S. operatives, propaganda campaigns, and a small exile army, Arbenz was forced to resign, plunging Guatemala into decades of military rule and civil conflict. The operation, hailed in Washington as a success, became a template for future interventions. Next came Cuba. After Fidel Castro overthrew the Batista regime in 1959, the island became a Cold War flashpoint. In 1961, the CIA backed the ill-fated Bay of Pigs invasion, a disastrous attempt by Cuban exiles to overthrow Castro. The operation failed catastrophically, embarrassing the Kennedy administration and cementing Castro's alliance with the Soviet Union. The CIA would continue to attempt to assassinate Castro through increasingly bizarre plots, exploding cigars, poisoned wetsuits, and chemical-laced pens, none of which succeeded. Chile presented another key battlefield. In 1970, Salvador Allende, a Marxist, was democratically elected president. The CIA, under orders from President Nixon and National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger, funded opposition groups and helped destabilize the Chilean economy. The culmination came on September 11, 1973, when General Augusto Pinochet led a violent military coup. Allende died in the presidential palace, and Pinochet's dictatorship would rule Chile for 17 years. Declassified documents later revealed the CIA's deep involvement before and after the coup, including close collaboration with Chilean intelligence services during the notorious Operation Condor, which targeted leftists across South America. In Brazil, the CIA supported the 1964 coup that ousted President João Goulart, fearing he leaned too far left. The resulting military dictatorship lasted over 2 decades, during which political opponents were imprisoned, tortured, or disappeared. Though not always in the spotlight, the CIA's fingerprints were present, supporting regime-aligned generals, passing intelligence, and training interrogators. Nicaragua in the 1980s was another key front. After the Sandinistas overthrew the Somoza dictatorship, the U.S. grew alarmed at the rise of leftist ideology in Central America. The CIA began supporting the Contras, a counter-revolutionary group accused of numerous human rights violations. When Congress cut off funding, the CIA resorted to secret arms deals, resulting in the infamous Iran-Contra affair, a scandal that rocked the Reagan administration. Elsewhere, in El Salvador, Honduras, and Panama, the CIA played less visible but equally influential roles, arming paramilitary groups, training death squads, or supporting strongmen. One such strongman was Manuel Noriega of Panama, who was both a CIA asset and a drug trafficker. When he became too independent, the U.S. invaded Panama in 1989 under Operation Just Cause, capturing Noriega and ending his regime. The true extent of CIA involvement in Latin America remained hidden for decades. Declassified files, journalistic investigations, and testimonies have slowly revealed the scale and methods: psychological warfare, media manipulation, blackmail, and selective assassinations. The CIA's aim was not always to promote democracy, but to ensure political alignment with U.S. strategic and economic interests. Critics argue that the CIA's legacy in Latin America is one of destabilization, authoritarianism, and prolonged violence. Entire generations grew up under regimes installed or backed by Washington. Civil wars raged, hundreds of thousands died, and many still search for the disappeared. Supporters of these interventions, however, insist that the U.S. was acting within the logic of the Cold War, defending against Soviet expansionism. Today, the shadow of those covert actions still looms. In many Latin American nations, distrust of U.S. intentions runs deep. Movements for justice, truth, and reconciliation continue to demand accountability. Statues are torn down, archives opened, and once whispered stories now enter the public record. The CIA's role, once myth and rumor, is now historical fact. What remains is a region still recovering from decades of foreign meddling, where memory is political and history, though sometimes redacted, refuses to be silenced.